Here's the thing. It's a radically different strategy. There's
Yeah.
different rules. It's a different strategies. It's not what everybody else is doing. I mean, there's a reason why only 10% of the people have wealth. And it's not because, what many people think it is. It's because we've not learned what to do and how to play it. But when you learn the big wake up call, again, those that go through my money school, it's like, holy shit, why did I not know this? It's because we're not taught. There's no way of knowing unless we learn, because it brings a whole new awareness of like, oh my God, I didn't know. And that's great if you're late 20s, into your 30s. It's really depressing and sad when you're late 40s and starting to learn these things. To say, why didn't I know this? It's because we're not taught this.
Right.
I mean, money is a life skill that we're not taught.
No, it's not taught in high school. It's not taught in middle school.
No.
I mean, it's not that. It may be taught in college if you take that as an elective, but it's not something that is required learning for us, and it's ridiculous. I agree with you wholeheartedly. You've mentioned this a couple times now, and I'd like you to kind of elaborate on it if you can. Sovereignty number. What is that?
Yeah, the sovereignty number. So I like the word sovereignty as opposed to financial freedom.
Yeah.
Freedom, it's great. We all want freedom at the end of the day. But sovereignty just means, and we can have sovereignty before we've actually created full financial freedom. And what financial freedom means, it means we're free. We've freed up our time through the sense that our assets pay for the cost of our lifestyle, so we don't have to go churn it out every single day. We can take even if, we can take the vacations, we can close our businesses if we wanted to. Yeah. And ultimately I think that's where everybody wants to go. Back in the day of pensions, that's what it was, meaning you worked your 40 years. And then when you got your pension, you got to quote unquote retire. There's no retirement these days, but back then retirement was a real thing. Yeah. It's based on the industrial age pension modality, really, kind of just that lifestyle. And so what that was, it meant like, okay, today I retire and I get that pension. And so that pension now is that income. So that's what traditional retirement meant. Now things have changed. We're still talking about retirement, some of these like industrial age concepts that just really aren't applicable anymore. It drives me nuts. But again, that's a separate conversation. But we're really wanting to do the same thing. We need to create our own pension, because there are no pensions. That day when we quit working or don't want to work as hard, and the money just continues to come in through the assets. So that's what and then we get to choose what we do with our time. So if I'm working my ass off every single day, year over year, and let's say I'm making $250,000 that I'm paying myself, there's going to be some point where I don't want to work this hard anymore. And so so whatever your number is, whatever your financial freedom number is, it's really like how much money does it require to pay your monthly expenses for the lifestyle that's a good life for you? And you need to know that number. If you've never done that work, I call it the good enough number, your financial freedom number of how much that is, so that you can almost pinpoint, not to the day, but certainly within a year or two, of when you're going to hit that number, when your asset value and the cash flow dividends or throw off from that can replace your working income. So let's just pretend that I hit that number today. My assets now completely throw off my $5 million of assets, throw off $250,000 worth of income. Now I can say, you know what? I love my business. I'm going to keep playing the game and in it, but it's a choice. I don't have to. I'm out of the churn. I'm out of the hustle. Or I could say, you know what? I'm done with that business. I'm just going to live off my assets and do what I want to do. The money buys time and choice. That's what that money is, because you don't have to go churn it out that day. And so that's financial freedom. Sovereignty just means confidence, understanding, knowing your numbers, knowing you're on track. What I call, can I curse on your?
Oh, absolutely. Go for it.
I call it, there's two financial trajectories. One is that what I call the financially fucked trajectory. I mean, you keep doing what you're doing and you're just going to be in the churn forever. And there's going to be a point where you're tired and wondering what went wrong. Or there's a financially free trajectory. So sovereignty means I am sovereign in my numbers. I'm whole, I'm complete, I'm confident, I understand. I can make choices. I know how the money operates. I know it works. I know I'm heading that right direction. And so each year as we're growing our sovereignty through our learning and how we place our money and how we flow it and cash it, then we just feel more confident and less stress and feel and have that margin, have that surplus. Because it's surplus. It's knowing you have that runway. It's knowing that you have wealth. It's knowing that, you've got extra monies to buy some happiness that we're talking about. That's what relieves that anxiety. And most people are in constant financial stress and anxiety month over month, regardless of how much money they make, especially when you throw, the family dynamics in it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I want to go back just a little bit when it comes. I never thought of retirement as kind of an antiquated word that went away with, or is in the process of going away with the boomer generation. That's a very interesting idea to me. And I was going to bring up a concept that I'm curious if you'd heard. It's the acronym is FIRE, Financial Independence, Retire Early. It was a community that I had actually found on Reddit, but a group of probably millennials, or I guess a community rather, build that wealth or income early so they can retire, at 30. And that, to me, I don't relish that idea. I think I would be completely bored, and that's probably a topic for a different conversation. But how to you, it doesn't sound like you love the word at all, but how has the concept of retirement evolved or shifted for you or for the public vernacular over the last 10 or 15 years?
Yeah, again, I recommend to replace the word free for retirement.
Yeah.
And I'm very aware of the FIRE and kind of the FIRE, what do we call it? Just, it exploded, and there's really great attributes to it. So yeah. There's but it's almost like live off rice and beans and just crank down expenses and don't live at all so you can retire early. And I'm kind of like, fuck that. We've got 20 years to do this. Like, play the game, earn money, build a great business, and just know if it's 10 or 20, whatever that time frame is. But we don't know if we're going to live till tomorrow. When people retire, men that retire at age like 65, their lifespan is usually when they fully retire and let's say they had a business or a great corporate job, they die within 5 years.
Yes.
So they sacrificed all that living and experience to quote unquote retire, and then they die. And I had a near-death experience a handful of years back. And what I learned on my deathbed was, man, I sacrificed so much because I was really in the wealth game and all these things and kind of hit these numbers early. And I missed my life, and I had so much regret on my deathbed. It's like, man, I'm dying. I haven't even lived yet. And I had plenty of money to enjoy more aspects of life and be more present and have more experiences. But I was just so gung-ho on hitting those numbers. And you don't know if you're going to live tomorrow. So it's this really fine line of living life today and making sure we're putting enough money away for our future self so we can live a good life tomorrow. And it's that balancing act. And to take the 20 years of time and build it slowly, it's a long-term game. Like, who wants to be retired at 30? Really? Like, you can, but what's the point? Like, just create more surplus and more of that, wiggle room and just more choice over time and live good today. What's the point of living off rice and beans? It doesn't make sense to me.
You are absolutely correct. And, at this point, I'm beating a dead horse, and I'm sure everybody in the world is tired of talking about it, but the last year has been exceptionally difficult. And, of the many things that we learned is that we to your point, we don't know if we're going to be alive tomorrow, whether or not it's dying from, a disease or it's getting hit by a car. We just don't know. So if we're not enjoying the time that we have, if we're not making the most of it, which time being, one of the few resources that is absolutely non-renewable, there's just no point if we're not enjoying ourselves and if we're not putting ourselves in the best position to have happiness or to have wealth.
Absolutely. And that is part of why we work hard, so we can enjoy our life today. It's just don't spend all of it.
Yeah.
And use time on your side. I mean, that's the thing. And just know, if it's 10, 20, 30 years, I mean, the younger you start, if you're on a 30-year plan, if you're making a high income, you have great income to use that 30 years to build wealth. And again, each year over year, when you're doing this, you create more expansion, you create more space, you're farther away from financial stress and anxiety.
The Mosaic Life podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Check out the full show notes at themosaiclifepodcast.com and sign up for the Circle newsletter for exclusive access to podcast content.